15 crazy ideas that actually worked. Anytime you're faced with a problem, surely you've racked a few stupid ideas through your mind before you found a practical solution. But once in a while, it seems those outlandish solutions might just actually be solutions. Here's 15 times those crazy ideas actually worked. Number 15. Tallest man saves dolphins. What do you do when you're faced with two dolphins who accidentally ingested plastic? If you thought perhaps there should be animal experts or surgery involved, it seems none of that was necessary. At an aquarium in China, the tallest man in the world was called in to save the pair of sea animals. A Mongolian herdsman by the name of Bao Shishun came to the rescue of the dolphins. The 54-year-old stands at a height of 7 foot 8.95 inches or 2.36 meters. Using his incredibly long arms, which measure at 1.06 meters, he reached down the throats of the dolphins and fished out the pieces of plastic. Thanks to him, the dolphins were able to fully recover. Number 14. Synchronized flushing. The city of Bulawayo, Zimbabwe had the constant problem of backed up sewage. Along with the years of severe drought, it seemed there was only one way to solve the problem. Everyone had to flush at the same time. According to the mayor, this simultaneous flush would help keep all the pipes wet at the same time, letting the waste flow easily to where it was intended to go. These synced flushes would begin to take place in the year 2012, with the first one set at a time of 7:30 at night. There's at least 1 million residents that live in the city, and altogether they flush their toilets, which apparently was a success. Number 13. Pet rocks. Some of you might be too young to have been around for the consumerism phenomenon known as the pet rocks, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Back in 1975, the late Gary Doyle, who was an advertising executive, had the brilliant idea to sell smooth stones in boxes and deem them as pets. Thus, the pet rock was born, and the packaging even came with little air holes for your pet rock. The selling point was that you could have a cute little pet that didn't need to be fed, walked, trained, or groomed, and it totally worked. In a matter of less than a year, and right on time for the winter holiday season, Doll would be a millionaire, with the rocks selling for $4 each. Number 12. Plastic wishbones. It's become a tradition for two people to break apart a turkey's wishbone after extracting said bone from a cooked turkey dinner. Sometimes arguments break out trying to figure out which two people get the chance to maybe have their wishes granted. In order to solve the conundrum of all the rest of the people at the party who feel left out, a man named Ken Aroni decided everyone should get the chance to make a wish. So he came up with the plastic wishbone that could be sold with a handful in a packet. More than 30,000 plastic wishbones are manufactured each day, with sales reaching over $2 million every year. Who knew that many people felt scorned they didn't have their own bone? Number 11. Skirt work. Although you think of snowy winters when you think of Scandinavia, it's still a place that gets seasons, and when the summer months hit in 2013, it made sense that the male train workers in Stockholm, Sweden would feel more comfortable wearing shorts instead of stuffy black pants to work. They all, however, were then prohibited from wearing shorts, so the male train drivers had to come up with a solution to feeling breezy without breaking the rules. That's why they then showed up to work wearing skirts. The argument was that the female train drivers were allowed to wear skirts to work, so to prohibit the male trained workers from wearing them would be considered discrimination. It seems no one minds the slight wardrobe change in the least. Number 10. Mirror catches the sun. Some places in the world do not get as much sunlight as they need, or as much as the residents of these towns would like. In order to solve this dilemma, giant mirrors were placed on the mountainsides of towns like Viganea in Italy and another in Norway. The giant mirrors reflect the sun into the parts of the land it wouldn't normally hit. In Norway, the town you see here gets no direct sunlight for up to 6 months every year. So 3 giant mirrors were installed in 2013 so that the sun could reach the lower parts of the valley. A few years prior, a similar installation took place in the Italian town of Viganea, which is located in the Antrona Valley. Here, the sun used to not shine from November until February, which has been fixed thanks to the mirror. Number 9. Square watermelons. The first thought people usually have concerning the implementation of square watermelons is why? Because when you taste one, unless we're all wrong about this, it's going to taste like a regular watermelon. But humans are interesting creatures, and if things like pet rocks will sway them into spending their money, why not square watermelons too? And you don't need to be a super scientific genius to figure out how these were made. The watermelons are grown in boxes, and the fruit just molds to the shape. The cubic form is supposed to make it easier to fit into the fridge, so if you were looking for a practical angle, there it is. It was a practice that started in Japan in the late 70s, and isn't super popular since it does cost more money to purchase a square watermelon, but it seems the storage and aesthetic was good enough for some people. Number 8. Selling bags of dirt. Anyone who is an expat of any place might be able to relate. Even if you love your new home in a new land, there's some things back home that you just can't replace. For some Irish expats, one of those things is the good old Irish dirt. Also known as old sod, it seemed one man found a way to capitalize on this and started bagging what's said to be official Irish dirt to those who wanted or needed it. Actually, Ireland is known for its famous soil, and there's a lot of nostalgia attached to it. So Alan Jenkins decided he'd give his Irish compatriots a piece of home, and in collaboration with agricultural scientist Pat Burke, who is also Irish-American, they came up with Old Sod, which is packaged dirt from Ireland. And thus far, the company's made millions since it was first established. Number 7. Britney Spears scares away pirates. Okay, so not Britney personally. She actually seems quite nice and personable now that she's older and knows how to handle fame. One tactic the British Royal Navy have used to deter Somali pirates out on the waters is apparently playing some Britney Spears songs. And by playing, we mean they blast hits like Baby One More Time and Oops, I Did It Again while on the coast of Africa. It's a method that's said to have been more effective than they thought it would be. And could you blame them for being skeptical at first? According to the naval officers, the pirates hate Western music, and it's a method that seems to work. An additional plus is that with this, less violent confrontations are necessary. But that also depends on how violent you feel if you had to listen to music you hate over and over again. Number 6. Goggles for dogs. Do dogs really need an accessory? Surely all the cutesy clothes and even collars we place on them is enough. However, as ridiculous as the phrase dog goggles seems for anyone, it's a business venture that's worked out in the dog goggle manufacturer's favor. The inventor of the product, known as the doggles, is Jill Doyle. And while most would quip that these things look ridiculous, the goggles protect your dog's eyes from the UV rays of the sun. Since dogs need to run around outside as much as possible, some owners would like to take that extra precaution. The company that sells doggles makes around $5 million in revenue every year, and also includes products that are prescribed lenses for dogs with visual impairments. Number 5. Dropped and shipped. Speaking of conscientious dog owners, let's take a look at the opposite side of the spectrum. Dog owners in the Madrid suburb of Brunet, Spain, were said to have a bad habit of not picking up after their dogs. This problem was becoming such an issue that efforts were made to stop this problem. And instead of just issuing fines, officials found a better way to deal with the unsanitary problem. A group of volunteers would look out for the dogs and their owners, bag the poop themselves, and then send it in the mail back to the owners. The practice is said to be highly effective, with the number of dog droppings around Brunet being considerably fewer. Number 4. Fishermen wearing masks. Fishermen in the Ganges Delta were dealing with Bengal tigers sneaking up on them as they tried to do their job, and it was becoming a dangerous problem. Instead of hurting the tigers or just moving to a different location, it seemed all that was needed was a prop. To scare away tigers approaching them from behind, the fishermen were instructed to wear these masks of a human face, which seemed to trick most tigers into thinking a human being had spotted them, or the face on the mask is just that displeasing that it scares them off. Number 3. Bottled air. You've probably heard about people complaining about bottled water, how it's all a sham, and that clean drinking water should come free anyways. So then think about the concept of bottled air. Now that you've thought about it for a bit, just know you can buy said product. Vitality Air was created by a Canadian startup company who sells cans of what is said to be 100% pure Rocky Mountain air for about $32 each. Sounds crazy, sure, but the little novelty product has made loads for itself, and it's said places with higher air pollution are the locations of the biggest buyers of bottled air. Number 2. Shade balls. The phrase shade balls probably means something different to a lot of people if you weren't aware of the context, but what they actually refer to are the millions of plastic balls that were dumped into the Ivanhoe Reservoir in Los Angeles about 2 years ago. The reason stems down to the continuing drought that the state of California has been going through. Placing the 4-inch thick plastic balls in the water would help shade the water from the hot sun, reducing rapid evaporation. Thus, things like bacteria and algae would be less likely to form, and certain chemical substances wouldn't be able to be produced. Number 1. Pigs with munchies. Stigma against legalized marijuana has slowly been falling away, especially now that places like Washington State have implemented it legally. But farmers in said state have also implemented the plant, and not in the way you probably think. Instead, cannabis has been incorporated into the pig feed, and it's said to increase the weight of the pigs up to 30 pounds more, for reasons you can imagine. Eating this new feed has made the pigs here bigger than pigs in other parts of the country, which only means good things for the farming trade in Washington.